Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geek Cause Podcast, episode number 30.
A whole 30. We're old.
I mean, we're like old enough to drink. I mean, we've been for a while.
Yeah, we've been old
but now we can
for a
really
good
do
while.
it with no. We can really do it now and not even worry about it. No, actually, this is the point where when we start drinking too much, we start to get like a little like too sick. So we have to start backing off from what we're doing.
Right. So this is like we're going too far now. We need to cut down.
Exactly.
Like retrospect, look back at our life, kind of go. Things need to change.
So this is the in case anybody can't tell the difference, it might sound a little different. Hopefully we'll get this all set up perfectly fine. If not this week, then for sure the next podcast.
Yeah.
But we're in different countries right now.
Yeah.
So we're recording this from different countries, but we're still ready to go with our bright enthusiasm and happy dispositions. And
if that's what you'd call it.
I'll tell you what. I tell you what, it's really, really weird doing this now that we're not like face to face.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. It's really weird.
Like I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, like almost. Like it's really,
like, what do I do with my hands? Like,
what do you do with your hands?
Yeah.
Like where are you supposed to look? How are you supposed to feel?
It's very different.
Well, hopefully it's not bad different. You guys have to be the deciding factor on that. So Kyle, tell me, what have you been up to since I have left the lovely Greenlands of Ireland?
Since you've left, I've done nothing different.
You've been gone.
No, quite literally, my life has been the exact same. I've been working, watching movies, and playing video games.
But has anything exciting happened? Like that is worth talking about?
I really wish there was. I need some excitement. I need some excitement in my life.
You let me down. Well, maybe I have something this week.
Yeah, surely you have something exciting considering, you moved back to America. That's pretty big.
Yeah. I can tell you, I can just like elaborate on the whole process. So I got into Dublin at like 8:30 into the airport, and everything was going fine. No issues. I got through everything. And then I just got on the plane, and it was all just pretty standard fare. So nothing really exciting happened.
I
think the biggest delay I had. No, the biggest delay I had was from Boston to Detroit. There was like a 20-minute plane delay. That's it.
Oh god, a whole 20 minutes.
Yeah, and everything else went smoothly. Got home okay. There's nothing missing. I had everything fine. My grandma was happy to see me. I had a big old bowl of spaghetti and cornbread. It's great.
That sounds fantastic.
It's a true American meal there, right?
Spaghetti and cornbread. It doesn't get any more American than that.
So yeah, it was a decent travel. I was happy with how easy everything went. I'm still having I'm not really having issue sleeping, but my sleeping schedule is like a little weird. I get up at 6 and then I get really tired around 5 or 6, and then I just force myself to stay awake at least until 10.
Yeah, that's how you fix it.
Yeah, I haven't really had any time to play. I haven't really had any time to play any games or watch anything really, just because I've been focusing on the grind. But I've been making sure to keep up with the gaming and entertainment news. I'll tell you what. Oh,
I'm glad, because that's kind of what this whole thing's about.
Exactly.
It'd be a little
awkward. there's a lot of good stuff to talk about this week. Surprisingly, like there's a lot. I mean, in the first 2 days after recording the last podcast, there was already like a plethora of topics that were just super, super exciting to talk about. And then throughout the whole week, I'm just like looking, I'm like, oh my god, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this. I think we got a good
I think I got
lot
a
of them.
Good hefty selection of things. Would you say they're pretty great topics?
They're pretty great. I would say that we got some pretty great topics to talk about this week. I mean, let's to be honest with you, since neither of us have anything interesting that's happened other than like my move, let's just jump right into start talking about the topics, because some of them are going to be pretty controversial, And some of them will upset others more than others. Some will upset others more than others. That sounds
great.
Sounds
English.
Good enough.
That's great English.
And one of those controversial topics is some video game delays that we have.
Yeah, not just some, a whole lot.
But I know there's at least like 3 or 4 major ones, and then there's actually a bunch of smaller ones as well that were kind of announced that I don't think people have talked about too much. But yeah, there's just a lot of delays happening. And one of the biggest ones, I would say, would probably be Cyberpunk 2077 is being delayed until September 17th.
Which was supposed to launch in April 16th, actually.
Yeah,
so that's a
we're
fairly
seeing
hefty delay.
April, May, June, July, August, September. That's like literally a half a year delay there.
Better part of a year.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, like, not that I think that, like, me personally, I'm not like upset by this situation, I don't think. But I mean, if you really take a look at it and you see all these other delays that have come up, like, what else do we have going on here? So
probably the next biggest one would be Final Fantasy.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake, that was delayed. What time did that get delayed to? Did they have a date for that? April 10th. So it didn't get pushed back too far. It was like, 3 months maybe?
Yeah. And Avengers has been delayed.
Avengers is delayed until September 4th.
And then as well as that, Dying Light, probably the weirdest of them all, has been delayed, but no new date has been given.
Yeah, actually, I think I had just seen something too where, as of right now, it's delayed indefinitely.
Yeah. They let out a notice saying that it's not where they want it to be and that it's delayed until further notice and that they'll keep the fans updated. Yeah,
I mean, that's a real weird one because Dying Light 2, I know like quite a few people were pretty excited for that, and the Dying Light original actually had a surge in popularity as people were getting ready to play Dying Light 2.
Yeah, as well as that the devs have been hyping it up non-stop, saying a lot of things that a lot of people have been liking, like saying that game maps don't have to be bigger, they just have to be better, which was one thing I've seen them say, which a lot of people agreed with.
I mean, when you're looking at it, it's kind of like you have to understand that that's a big thing and I think that's kind of why a lot of like Cyberpunk 2077, if you look at what they were saying, they said that one of the reasons they delayed is because they just want it to be exactly where they feel like it should be, and I guarantee that it's about fleshing out that map a little bit more.
Yeah, they probably have everything ready to go, but they probably just feel like the open world needs a bit more meat to it, a bit more fine-tuning.
I mean, that's the problem with open world games anyways, is that a lot of the time there's too much open space and not enough going on individually. And
it was a big issue.
Cyberpunk 2070...
Like Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah. I know Cyberpunk 2077 was talking about, like, one of the major, like, things about it was that it was going to feel fleshed out and everything like that. But,
yeah,
I mean, you see this delay of 6 months, and it just really makes you think, like, why? And I was kind of talking to you about before we started recording about how I really do think that the reason why there were so many delays in such a short period of time was that the developers, I think once Cyberpunk 2077 got delayed, I think that was one of the first ones.
Cyberpunk was the first one.
Immediately. And once that happened, it just seemed like left and right we were seeing delay. And I think a big part of that was just the simple fact that these developers saw that big company was like, we're going to have to do this because we need to fix more stuff and we want it to be perfect for you. And they were like, this is the perfect opportunity for us to push back our game and people not to be upset, because if they did it, that means we can. And it'll just like all be a big delay party in the beginning, which if you look at the game releases, there were a lot of games that were coming out all at the same time around the beginning of the year. And everyone was talking about how nuts it was going to be.
Jam-packed.
Yeah, it was. It was like literally just release. And it's funny too, because we even saw Animal Crossing New Horizons for the Switch a few months ago was supposed to be out like a month or so ago, and that ended up getting pushed back until the beginning of February, sometime in the middle of February. And so you're seeing like that was just another game that was going to be released in this time window when everything else was due to release, pretty much.
It's not even a case that they're like small title games from small studios, like they're big releases.
Yeah, it's weird, but like I honestly think it was just this was the opportunity of this is an opportunity for all these devs to take this time and be like, well, if one company is doing it, we'll all do it. And if you look at like I'm looking at an article on The Verge right now about the 2077 delay, and it's saying like, you know, the multiplayer component for Cyberpunk was originally supposed to launch after the game's April debut, among other free add-ons, which means that like not too far after you would see some multiplayer elements, but they weren't working on that until after they finished the single player. But now the multiplayer option probably is not going to launch until like way after 2021.
Yeah. It just kind of pushes their whole schedule way back, really.
And we're seeing probably the same things. This is the thing that a lot of people are kind of talking about with the Final Fantasy VII remake delay, is if they're delaying this again when it's already been in the works for so long and has already had these delays. I mean, yes, it's only being pushed back a month, but it's making people really question, like, okay, well, when are we going to see the rest of these games come out? Like, when are we going to see like the rest of the Final Fantasy VII remake series? Because it's not coming out as one big game; it's coming out as sections of games and in like a potentially episodic sort of fashion. So is this them pushing it back to work on those other episodics so people don't wait longer than a month or so for the next
big question.
portion?
Is like, is this pushback for the first part, or is this to like get more work done on the next part?
Yeah, and I mean, when we're looking at Marvel's Avengers, that delay, I mean, I don't think anybody was surprised with that, considering that they had to go into changing a whole bunch of stuff. And I think we talked about that last week, didn't we? How they
how they redesigned
a lot more that
nearly
they're changing about
all
it.
of the characters because fans didn't like how they looked, and they did that like 3-4 months before the game was supposed to be released, so it makes sense them pushing back.
Yeah, I get it. I understand it, you know, and like all these delays, and I think most of us are in agreement. I mean, you're going to have some gamers that are going to throw more fits than others. But I think what it is for me, and I kind of posted about this on the Twitter. I don't mean like the Twitter, but I mean like our Twitter account.
The Twitter.
Not like an old person, the Twitter. I mean like the Twitter that we both run.
Whatever you say.
But I posted on there, and I was like, I think the biggest issue with this isn't. I don't think I'm upset by the fact that there's a delay, because I understand that, and I'd rather the game come out better because of a delay than it be released half-assed like some of these other games that come out. But I think the thing that bothers me is these developers are releasing earlier dates and like pushing them out there and saying this is what time the game's going to come out. You don't have to wait long. And then they have to push it back when they start getting close and they realize that they're not in a good enough schedule. And what that does is it's just like, why don't you just push back where the game's going to be released and start it from the beginning like that, instead of telling us one date and then pushing it back? I would much rather be be told right from the get-go, this isn't going to come out until 2021. And then I'm not surprised about it, because I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll wait till 2021. It's going to take a while, but fair. And then if for some reason the game gets done before then, they could always be like, actually, we're going to release it now. And then it's like, oh, that's super cool. That would feel a lot better than being like, all right, we're releasing this next month, and then everyone going like, oh my god, hell yeah, I'm so excited, and then not releasing it until after. People think that, oh, these delays are going to, you know, allow the developers not to have to do gaming crunch and stuff like that. But come to find out, I mean, like, I guess it's not really surprising if you actually use your head.
No, not really.
But we have a article from Jason Schreier at Kotaku, who is one of the big, like, I guess, proponents of not accepting crunch and like always calling attention when there's issues with that in the gaming development world. And he came out with an article on Friday saying, hey, just so you know, video game delays cause more crunch.
Yeah, it's when you think about it, at first you'd kind of go, oh, it's extra time, so they don't have to work as hard. But in reality, it's more so, we missed our first, target, so now we have to try and make our second. So you're going to have to work even harder for these next 2 months.
Yeah, I think, like, you know, he goes into it, he says, like, you know, most video game fans are sympathetic to delays because they understand that taking more time makes a better game.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But what happens is exactly what you said. When you miss one deadline and you're trying to aim for another, you know, a fan is accepting of one delay because they understand those issues. Is a fan going to be as accepting of a second or a third? You know? And when you take a look at these delays, the only logical outcome of anything anything happening is that those developers and, like, the people working on all these different aspects are going to have to bust ass to make sure that this time those sort of issues get fixed and that the game hits its release date.
Yeah. It's like in the Kotaku article, it goes further down. It goes, imagine then having a single release date in mind, knowing that you'll just have to work nights and weekends until then, only for that date to slip back 5 more months. Maybe at that point the emails will start getting more can ride. Quote, hey everyone, thanks so much for all your hard work. The good news is that we got a few more time. What? Good news is that we just got some more time, which means we'll be able to get in all those kick-ass features you wanted. The bad news is that we're just going to have to keep pushing a little harder.
And it's like, okay, cool, fair enough. Like, you know, and I'm assuming someplace like CD Projekt Red would be pretty, you know, kind and understanding and stuff like that. But at the end of it all, that's sort of what it come down to, is being like, okay, like, you know, we get more time to work on these features. So unfortunately, we're going to have to start working our ass even harder. And with that, it's like, all right, well, that, you know, maybe you've been working those crunch hours and those extra, you know, weekends and nights and stuff for the last few months to try and hit the first deadline, and then you get that delay, and your first thought process is maybe like, oh, we got a delay, so we can work on that stuff a little bit more. But with fixing the issues that are already there, these developers are gonna, you know, the heads of it are gonna want to see what else they can try to add in, what else they can fit to make sure it works good for the next date. And it's automatically going to translate into like, well, okay, well, now we can't mess around with this extra time, so we need you guys to use every last bit of this extra time.
Yeah. It's more so, we've got these extra like few months now to fix what we don't have ready, but we literally needed it done in this time period, so it doesn't matter if you actually need an extra month to do all this. You gotta find the time.
And that's just, you know, when we're looking at these, that's sort of like a brighter side of saying how they're being nice about it and they understand, but like, you know, it's gotta happen. That's just looking at it for an example of a decent development, you know, company. Whereas, who knows how it is for the people working on Marvel Avengers, or how it is for some of the other games that, like Final Fantasy VII Remake. We don't know how the crunch is on that. We don't know what they've already been working, or you know how nice they've been to their employees.
Yeah.
It could be something, a whole terrible situation of even an extra month is adding a whole extra month of working 90 hours a week. We don't know that right now. We have no way to truly identify that. And this situation could be even more worse than we even think.
Yeah, like you look at the guys who are making the Avengers game, it's Crystal Dynamics. And apparently they're infamous for crunch. That like they would have like raffle systems where developers can acquire tickets and win prizes in exchange for overtime hours. So they'd be quite like, you're like, okay, if you like work overtime, you'll have your name put into a draw to win something.
Hopefully it's something worthwhile, working an extra 20 hours a week.
Honestly, it's like, no, it's like a $20 coupon for like Chipotle or something. Making your American references here.
Work 20 extra hours and you can get your Chipotle for lunch for the extra hours that you're working for free the next week. Yeah. Ooh.
Or you get vouchers like for $1 for every hour you work.
I mean, I really wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
No.
And you know, it sucks because actually, hold on a second. I just received an update based on a article from AltCare, or like an alternate character, and they claim from a source that they've talked to, from a Polish insider, for the Cyberpunk 2077, and apparently the Cyberpunk 2077 delay was because of current gen consoles.
Oh.
Yeah, so according to this alt character website article, it says last week CD Projekt Red officially delayed their highly anticipated RPG Cyberpunk 2077. Speaking in a podcast, which you can watch below. Don't want to say that. Listen to our podcast instead.
Yeah.
But the insider source confirmed that it was a problem with the Xbox One console not being powerful enough to run the game properly, and if the problem isn't fixed by January 2020, the release date must be postponed, and that's what ended up happening. So this was obviously a pre-delay podcast sort of source, and there you go. That's what it is. It looks like it's come down to that the Xbox One wasn't performing up to their standards for Cyberpunk 2077, and now they've got to push back the process to get all those kinks worked out.
That seems very strange for that issue to come up this late in development.
That to me sounds like a gross oversight.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean by a gross oversight? I mean like that they weren't testing this properly on Xbox One systems, and they were only using PC and maybe PS4 systems instead.
Well, CD Projekt Red are known for developing all their games purely on PC. That they've openly said that they feel like their games should be played on PC because that's how they built them.
Right, so then there you go.
I'm not surprised, because I remember when Witcher 3 came out, the then head of the studio was like, the best way to play this game is on PC. It's the way we intended. And
so that means that this is probably due to them developing on PC, them focusing their attention on that, and then deciding later in the process when they're going to their console builds, they're probably like, oh no, this will work fine, like this will be fine. And I think what people like fail to realize that, and this is like, I thought this was pretty well-known information, but between the Xbox One and the PS4, like everything else inside internally is pretty much the same when it comes to the power of it. They're pretty nearly the same.
Yeah.
But the PS4 for some reason is a little bit more identical with its makeup and its like operating system to work with PC, whereas the Xbox One wasn't, and I don't know why this is. It's something like internally with how like the operating system and stuff works out. And I remember this being an issue at first because people were worried when they were doing this sort of like dual support for Xbox One and for PC if it would be working fine, because they kind of had that like slight little difference. But I wonder if literally what happened is they've been working on PC this whole time and they just thought that, oh well, the console version shouldn't have any major issues because they're pretty decent, and then they went to go test it on the consoles that they had set up, and maybe PS4 was like working fine, so they were like, well, let's just like pause on the Xbox One. If it's working on that, it's going to work on that, no problem. And then when they went to test the build that they had available, maybe it didn't work fully how they were hoping.
See, that very much seems like it's just like a production issue, not so much that the console can't handle it, but more so how they've made the game isn't compatible with how the Xbox kind of communicates.
Yeah, I would definitely say
shapes into empty like holes. It's like the PC one fits perfectly into the PlayStation one, but to fit it into the Xbox one, it needs to be a slightly different shape.
Yeah, it's not that, it's definitely not that it can't, it's not a limitation of being able to run it, because we all know that that's possible. It's a limitation with, I think, the like transporting it into that sort of medium that fits in there better.
Yeah.
So
the translating
it's like
from PC to the console.
Yeah, it'd be like if you had Windows and you were trying to, like, you had you had Linux and there was a Windows application that you had, and maybe that application can easily work into Linux. But then when you try to go to Mac and try to use that same application on a Mac, like the version that they were creating for Mac OS, now even though Mac OS and Linux, Mac is based off of a version of a Linux operating system, so like it should it should translate fine, there can still be like, okay, well, yes, they're both shapes, and they both are, you know, four-sided shapes, but maybe the ways that those four sides line up don't fit perfectly.
Exactly.
And so it's like you have to do a little bit more finagling to get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting, which is kind of curious given a CD Projekt Red statement about Cyberpunk today. Where
Yeah,
they just
they
kind of
didn't-
talked about, Midnight City, whatever it's called, is a massive thing, and the game isn't where we want it at, and it's working and playable.
See, what it sounds like to me is like maybe it is, but maybe not on the Xbox
It's like,
One.
it's
is what
working
they
and
want
playable
much.
on certain things.
I think it sounds like they might have, and I know that this sucks to say because they've been kind of like a champion in terms of the development world, but it sounds like they let out a little bit of a lie
Yeah.
to kind of cover up the fact that this isn't just
They might have had a little bit of an oversight.
yeah, and they were kind of didn't want to say, oh well, we didn't really know that this was going to happen because we didn't really do our due diligence, and that's our fault. Instead of
Yeah.
saying that, it's easier to say the game isn't exactly where we want it, but it works fine.
Yeah.
You know, people accept that more than they accept, oh, we didn't test the Xbox One for a couple months, and then when we went back to test it again, it didn't work.
Yeah. It was a big oversight. That was a massive oversight.
And this is going to lead right into the crunch that we were talking about.
Yeah. That CD Projekt Red now
Which
are going
sucks.
to be worked to the bone now to try fix it.
And whoever works on the porting itself is probably going to be kind of shafted a bit.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of leads into our next topic pretty good, where you have these people that are being forced to work these hours, or at least feel like they're forced, and there's not much they can do about it. And they don't really have any representation in like the video game world, the video game development, streaming, and stuff like that. There's no representation really, right? It's all seen as kind of it's overall for the last couple of years. It's been definitely changing how it was, but prior to that, it was a very this is a hobby. This is just a hobbyist thing.
Yeah. There's no real like protection in place for them.
No, and what we're seeing, though, is some support going to creating, like, a video game workers union and stuff, and that could lead into more of a video game as a whole when it comes to streaming and production and stuff like that with video games. With Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which, if you don't know, AOC is a representative in the U.S. for, I think it's New York. And she's kind of like a champion on workers' rights and, power to the people that deserve the power.
Yeah.
And she ended up posting a video for the Twitter handle is Code CWA. I'm assuming that it's some sort of a workers' rights based on what I'm seeing, a workers' rights sort of Twitter account. And they said, thank you so much, AOC, for supporting workers as we organize into the tech and game industries. And it's a video of her pretty much saying, like, video game workers deserve these rights too, and we need to start looking into supporting video game worker unions.
Which is a good thing.
Oh, very much so for the industry. Now, not for the developers themselves, probably, and not for the publishers.
The higher-ups as well will probably get shafted a fair bit.
But, this is just showing, though, that, like, those people at the top, I mean, EA that makes billions of dollars, at the top and has all these issues with their employees that don't like what they're doing, this is just a way to force them to, pay their due diligence, whether it be making sure they get better pay, making sure they're not working 80 hours a week with no benefits. I mean, yeah, you have certain laws in place when it comes to like federal laws and stuff like that, but overall there's no major thing when it comes to video game creation where if there's an issue, these developers and stuff can go to and say, I want to try to champion for a better pay or for less hours or whatever. And if they say it, they just get shit on. They get fired, or they get moved to a different area, or they get told to deal with it. And they're just stuck in those positions.
Like at the moment, if a developer goes, you know what, I don't want to do these crunch hours, I don't want to work 90 hours a week. I need, the coming Sunday off completely. I can't work that day. And they go to their boss and they say that, and then they're just told, okay, you just aren't doing your job then, so we'll get someone else in to do it for you.
Yeah, or it just comes down to they have no choice but to find a different company that hopefully will treat them better and hope that one will work better, because
where if there's a union in place, they'd have someone to pretty much have their back.
Yeah, and I mean, despite what anybody's opinion is on unions, like, the threat of a union, or like the ever-present like of it being there, is good for workers, right? Whether you agree with unions entirely or not, I mean, it's irrelevant. The fact that there's something that can be created and can be there in place to kind of at least make sure that stuff is going into the favor of the workers, the people who actually do all the actual labor on the games, is good. But yeah, so I guess that's kind of, unless you have something else that you want to add on to that.
I think this is something you're going to see that's going to be surprisingly fought. That is actually, I don't think it'll be as quick a movement as you're going to expect it to be, because you have all these companies who wouldn't be, the fondest of unions, that would try to throw their weight around to at least slow down the progress of it.
But what we see is if it ends up happening in the US where we get something created, then what we can say is that you definitely probably see it in some of the other countries that have these sort of major issues that like to establish unions and give power back to, the worker.
Yeah.
So I think it's good overall. I think it's a good idea.
It'll overall help the gaming industry.
Yeah, overall, I see it as a win for the gaming industry as an entirety, not just for the corporations that run it.
It makes it a better place.
Speaking about better places,
oh boy,
wouldn't you say the world is a better place now that the Half-Life collection is free to play until the launch of Half-Life Alyx?
Yes, so that's 2 months until March. The Half-Life collection is free of charge.
Yeah, all games in the Half-Life collection are free to play for Steam users until it launches.
Yeah, Valve said in their announcement that Half-Life Alyx is set before the events of Half-Life 2 and the episodes, but the game shares characters and story elements. The Half-Life Alyx team believes that the best way to enjoy the new game is to play through the old ones, especially Half-Life 2 and the episodes. So we want to make that as easy as possible.
Oh yeah, it's a way for, these people that are going to play Half-Life Alyx to at least know kind of what's going on in the story, right?
Yeah.
It's a way for them to understand the kind of the characters, at least.
Yeah.
They don't, because I doubt that the game is going to be like a strong continuation and you'll be able to play it like standalone, but you probably want to at least get some information about the characters themselves, just so like you kind of know what's going on.
And like, it's been God knows how long since we've had a Half-Life game. So putting them out, all of them out there for free 2 months before Alyx releases would probably build that anticipation and build the hype, as well as pull people in who are a bit unsure about Alyx because maybe they weren't into Half-Life. Gives them that chance to be like, okay, I'm going to give these Half-Life games a try, and then ends up with them buying Half-Life Alyx as well when it comes out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, the Half-Life games and stuff have been out for so long anyways that they're probably raking in all the profits that they ever could have gotten for it, so it's not like they're losing anything. They're literally losing nothing here.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, in the Half-Life collection, it is Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 2, as well as the spin-off games Opposing Forces and Blue Shift, as well as the multiplayer Team Fortress Classic. Yeah,
it's... I mean, like, and to be honest, most people just probably need to play Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 2, and they get most of what they need. So that would have been enough, but the fact that they also included the spin-off games and then the multiplayer, I mean, like, no one plays Team Fortress Classic anymore, but still.
But maybe for the next 2 months, a lot of people will be.
Just to check it out, yeah.
Yeah, because they have it for free, they may as well.
I see this as a win.
Oh, absolutely.
Way for them to get more people buying their stuff, and it's just a positive all around. They're going to have more people be interested in Alyx, and then they're going to have, the people that like the games are going to be able to play them for free, or if they've never played them, they're going to be able to try them.
Yeah, it's definitely a smart move. It's nice to see Valve making smart decisions again.
Right, and I think it's cool because we're going into another sort of announcement when it comes to like new releases of games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
With Metro Redux being announced for Nintendo Switch.
which is kind of awesome, frankly.
I mean, like, if you look at it, so what we have here is it's first of all, this is all on their carts. This is all like on the little Nintendo Switch carts that you can get it. So it's not just download. But it literally includes the definitive editions of Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light, including all DLC content on a 16 gigabyte cart.
That's kind of awesome. I'm just looking at one
I
of the
think this
comments.
is one of the few times
there.
that there's a 16 gigabyte cart being used as well.
Yeah. Just one of the comments there is playing Metro at the Metro.
I mean, yeah. It's funny. But I think that's really cool. It's just another video game announcement to talk about. And I mean, I've not personally played the Metro games, but I know that they're good based on everyone's
I've
they've
played
said about it.
all of them. Played the first one, Last Light, and then Exodus. Yeah, they're
what do you think?
Such good games. Just like gameplay wise, they're fun. They have this good balance of like first person action as well as horror, and then it's just atmospheric as all hell.
I thought that, and this is what's weird, is I thought that they were like very like pretty graphically demanding games, but they're putting them all on Switch.
Yeah.
That's intense. Like the fact that they were able to just somehow easily get over the graphical limitations and just. I mean, I know like you have like The Witcher 3 and you know like stuff like that that's come out that's kind of shown that you can do it. But how long they must have been working on this just to make sure it came out and is working fine.
Yeah, it's impressive. It is very impressive. And I say it won't be long before Exodus is on there.
Oh yeah, I'd say that if they can get those those two on there, definitive editions, it definitely won't be long.
Yeah, we're just around the corner. It's cool. I like the fact that they're just adding the collection of the two of them as well. They're not just choosing one or the other.
Yeah, it's like here's a collection with the definitive editions. Play these on the Switch, and it's kind of their way of maybe it is kind of their way of saying like because Exodus is coming out soon, and we want you guys to play these other. Which kind of we want Nintendo Switch owners like Nintendo fans to figure out what it is about, Metro. That's awesome.
Yeah, because it's a continuing story as well. It's the same character through all three of them.
Oh, is it really? Is it something where you have to play the other ones to get to enjoy the next one? You
don't necessarily have to, but. Say you play the second one without playing the first one, you'd have a couple of questions at the start.
Okay.
Of going, wait, why am I here? Sense. What's happening?
Yeah. That makes sense then. So, we got a little bit of other interesting news when it comes to Nintendo Switch.
And collections.
Oh yeah? What's that?
Yeah, so the BioShock collection has been rated for Nintendo Switch. Now, it isn't an official announcement.
Yeah, it's not a definitive, right? But, no. I mean, come on.
It's as close as you can get. So, pretty much, BioShock Remastered, BioShock 2, and BioShock Infinite, the Complete Edition, / BioShock the Collection, have been rated for...
And if it's rated for it, we've
kind of coming out.
I mean, like, there's few that, few games that this happens without it actually... happening, and the fact that we saw the Metro Redux being officially announced, this kind of hits the nail on the head. Like if we have those being announced that they're coming out, this is Switch is doing so smart to put out these like sort of collections of these games and stuff that people like anyways.
They're really big like fan bases for these games as well. They're not just one-offs. It's like Metro,
it's like cult
BioShock.
Followings even out of anything.
So it's going to pull people in big time.
And it's going to bring a whole new sort of audience into it as well. When it comes to Switch, like how many Switch owners do you think have played the BioShock series? You know what I mean?
Like people who have bought Switches who have never probably owned an Xbox or PlayStation, but got the Switch because it's nice and handy to have.
Yeah, exactly. It's cool, and I think the more that the Switch does to put out stuff like this and to entice people that might not have been interested in the Switch, or to give the people that own a Switch a chance to experience these other games, this is just awesome. It's just super cool. And we're looking at more stuff coming out too as well, like potential. This is potential.
Yeah. Like this is
I think you'll like this one.
Yeah. Now, again, this isn't anything official, but it's kind of, very likely. But Xbox is reportedly very eager to explore the Nintendo Switch.
And this isn't just talking about, I think, one or two games. So we had a tweet by Tom Phillips, and Tom Phillips, he's the new CEO, right?
I'm actually not sure who Tom Phillips is, if I'm completely honest.
He's somewhere up there. I know for a fact he's somewhere up there.
He is a higher up.
Let's see if we can figure this out real quick. So it's saying that he's an editor, and that maybe he's not part of Microsoft, but he's part of like an editor for a I think it's Eurogamer who has close ties with Microsoft.
Eurogamer practically work hand in hand with Microsoft for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and he released a tweet saying, like, Horizon's on, because in case anybody didn't know, Horizon, what is it, Zero Dawn is going to be coming out on PC, like it's been announced. And we didn't add this to the topic, but I was going to, but I'll just mention it right here since we're talking about this, is it's coming to the PC, and people are pretty excited about that. But he said, Horizon on PC is a start, but Microsoft is still a long way ahead of PlayStation, making a serious move to a platform-agnostic future. Argue your games are worth more than slapping in a sub, sure, but the future is everyone being able to access great games wherever they play. Horizon will be followed by others down the road. You don't need to dream too hard to guess, but Xbox is already well-established launching games on PC at the same time and eager to explore Switch. And this is kind of just it's a rumor, but it's something where it's coming not from the horse's mouth, but from the farmhand that tends to the horse and feeds it every day.
Yeah. And if you look at things that Microsoft and Xbox have said in the past regarding things like the Switch, it makes a lot of sense with them saying that, they want Game Pass on the Switch. I think it was last year or a year and a half ago at this point now, that they wanted it to be a multi-platform thing. So them wanting to kind of broaden the horizon to everything kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's something where the I know that like his tweet was meant to kind of say like, okay, good job on PlayStation for releasing Horizon on PC. That's cool, but Microsoft is way ahead of you. Yeah. And I get that it's kind of like it's kind of like he was trying to make a jab, but I mean he's not wrong. I
think it was less of a jab and more so like, yes, PlayStation, you're making the right moves, but you need to catch up to Microsoft if you want to be good at this kind of thing.
Yeah,
credit where credit's due, but Microsoft's already doing this.
Yeah, and Microsoft is probably, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft has been literally in the works right now working on getting Game Pass or some sort of, even like with a streaming sort of service from the Switch
to try and make Cloud or something.
Yes, to try and make it so that you can play the games at least through a streaming service, which I wouldn't like the streaming service aspect of it, only for the simple fact that the Switch's Wi-Fi is notoriously bad. Yeah. So if you don't have the dongle that can allow Ethernet connection, it's not the best. So I mean, like that means the sort of streaming wouldn't be as nice. It'd be kind of like, I don't know, Google Stadia, that little gem that we have going around.
I still think it would perform better than the Stadia at the moment.
Yeah, probably.
Which each passing day, there's less and less players.
And so it'd be nice to see that there, and I hope that this is kind of like a rumor that has way more truth than it does not. Where we're going to see some major things start to come from Microsoft on the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, like you're already seeing them pushing hard for crossplay for pretty much everything when it comes to PC and Xbox. Because obviously they're pretty interconnected now with their whole Play Anywhere feature, where if you buy it on one, you can play it on the other. So I wouldn't be surprised if not long down the line it's like, okay, well, now we're practically just completely linked to them all.
Right.
With the only one not been in the bundle is PlayStation.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, and you'll see PlayStation maybe not be doing so hot if they continued on this track that they're going down.
But speaking of not doing so hot...
Oh, ooh, you took the segue on this one. Let's see where... Broom, let's see where this segue is going.
Ooh. So, our old friend GameStop.
Who we've tried to talk up the last little bit and tried to make it seem like they could be potentially doing a little bit better.
That there'd be we'll see improvement. It's gonna come. But they have seen a 27.5% decrease in their holiday sales this year.
Which has caused their stock to plummet and be sold off left and right before people worry about them going even further down the drain.
Yeah, which is just... it's hurting them more than they're already hurting.
Yeah, and I think... correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, but I personally see this as one of the reasons this happening is because all this stuff that they said that they were going to do, like release release their stores to have like a sort of competitive scene to kind of bunker down and make make GameStop more of a place for gamers to actually feel like they're comfortable to go there, like make it back for the gamers, right?
Yeah.
And we still haven't seen anything really come from that since they've talked about it.
It's like they had all these big things, and we've seen, layoffs happening and stores closing and plans being leaked of things that they're supposed to be doing. Yeah, so you've seen all these leaks and things going through, and that was, 8-9 months ago now?
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, like, around our first few episodes of the podcast, we were talking about GameStop supposed to be doing these things, and then we had heard about them closing some stores to focus more on doing this thing. And when you look at that, you're looking at the fact that all they've had this year is store closings and nothing positive happened.
Layoffs and
so people being let
downsizing.
go and yes, exactly. And because of that, they had a 27.5% decrease in holiday sales. Now this is going to sound still like a lot, but you have to keep in mind if it's a 27% increase that they're losing quite a bit. So it went down to 1.8 billion in sales, which what's 27% increase of that, or about 28%. So 27 or almost 28% decrease in holiday sales from 1.8 billion. So that's, I don't know, what's 25% of 1.8 billion? Like 2 billion would be 500 million?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah, because 500 millions would equal 2 billion, right? Yeah. So you're looking at like millions and millions of that's just Cody math right there. So I don't know how accurate it is, but like you're looking at millions of dollars lost, which okay, 1.8 billion, fine, fair enough. But when it comes, that's just in holiday sales, where holiday sales are usually the busiest and most skyrocketing amount of sales for a company, especially like this. And that caused the stock to dive down 16%. Like, that's a huge drop.
It's a massive drop.
Something that used to be so big, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's sad to see. I had so much hope for them. I had so much hope for them that, like, we'd start to see something, but I think the fact that we haven't seen anything, like you've said, has just hurt them more.
I think what it's going to come down to is if they don't this year come out with some stuff that if they don't this year come out with some stuff that they said that they were going to, we are going to see another bad year for them. And I don't see them recovering from nearly it's been like several years in a row now where it's just been a loss for them. No increase in anything. And unfortunately, in the capitalistic society that we live in, that kind of spells out the doom for yourself.
It kind of does. That there's almost the beginning of the end for them.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah. One part of it, actually, people saying that the decrease of this year could have been due to, one, the lack of anything getting close to Red Dead Redemption 2 sales in 2018, which was apparently 725 million in 3 days.
I mean, fair enough. That can definitely have an effect.
And as well as that, a decrease in console sales given the announcement of the next-gen console starting next year.
And that's true. That is true. But I mean...
So that would have been a part of it, but there's still a large chunk of it that's... It's not 27% worth of it.
No, and that's, I think, the biggest thing. I mean, seeing a 27%, okay, fair enough, you don't have the same launches, but every year in the gaming world, there's at least one big launch of something, right? I mean, how do you express when it comes to Call of Duty Modern Warfare? That's one of the biggest selling games ever.
Yeah.
So if you're including that factored in to 2019, well, then how can you say that you've not been doing good on sales?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you can compare Red Dead Redemption 2 or whatever, but like, I know Modern Warfare has been doing gangbusters, and if it doing gangbusters and it's not like translating to your store sales, it means that you're not selling good through your store.
Yeah. It can explain a very small percentage of it, but it can't explain all of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sad. I wish they could have done something. I think they have a small period of time now, a small window, to start making their changes, and maybe it'll do some good.
Do you think that the good that they will do will be better than the good that Ubisoft's lawyers are going to do against the Rainbow Six Siege DDoS attackers?
Ooh, that was a good segue, Cody.
Yeah, you like that? Yeah, I revved up the engine. You couldn't hear it. I don't know if you could hear it or not, but I was revving the engine. Getting ready.
The mic didn't pick up the engine.
Okay.
So yes, Ubisoft's legal team has filed a lawsuit against a Rainbow Six DDoS attack in the California District Court. Now,
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, no, you can go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, it looks like it said that it was a website that actually directs DDoS attacks. So, like, if it's a website that which is already that I mean, it's got like problems because DDoS attacks are super illegal. And It says multiple people from across the globe are listed in the lawsuit, which would make sense because for DDoS attacks, you have them multiple computers and servers are used to distribute the denial of service.
Yeah, I read it somewhere that apparently it's going to be around 20 people.
20 people.
That it's going to be somewhere in and around that number. That the people who are in the know on the internet are saying that it's going to be around 20 people in this lawsuit.
That's
yeah. And it's globally as well. It's not just people from
one part
America.
Of the area. Yeah. And I mean, if you look at it too, I'm just looking at this article on EvoStrix about this, and it's saying like in the preliminary statement of the case, Ubisoft mentions that they seek to stop an unscrupulous commercial group of hackers and profiteers dedicating to harming Ubisoft's games, destroying the Rainbow Six Siege player experience for their own personal financial benefit. And apparently, like, there's even more to this than just the DDoS attack, where Ubisoft alleged that the defendants created a fake seizure notice on their website that falsely claimed Microsoft and Ubisoft had taken over the website. And that the defendants admitted they created the seizure notice in order for Ubisoft to admit that they have a problem, whatever that means. So not only was Ubisoft involved in this, but now you could see potentially Microsoft dipping their hand in there because the DDoS, they use their name to assume that they were the ones responsible for the seizure or whatever.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. We haven't really seen a company as big as Ubisoft take such an action against DDoS attackers.
Well, I mean, this is something that needs to happen, though, right? Because there's just...
Oh, yeah.
This is something that people, especially with the way that technology is nowadays, it's too easy to create DDoS attacks. And while there's, decent ways to handle the people trying to direct, denial of service attacks at them, it requires more money to do so. It requires time from people, and it requires you to have to put more into something to prevent those sort of attacks from happening, especially when you have huge player bases. And after Rainbow Six Siege has been doing so well, and it has more stuff coming out for it, and all this stuff,
it's bigger than it's ever been.
You're having people taking and trying to take down those services is going to cause a huge disruption into the gameplay for the consumer, but also for the company itself that is going to have to suffer from the people being upset about it and from the people not being able to play or not being able to spend money and so on and so forth.
It's a really good thing to see that they're taking action, though.
I mean, yeah.
DDoS attacks, like, what ultimately is, the benefit of a DDoS attack, really?
Yeah, exactly. There's no supreme benefit to, making it so people can't play a game
that much. It doesn't even hurt the company that much. It hurts the player base, which seems anti-productive.
Yeah, it really, I mean, like, overall, it really doesn't. And whatever, like, if you think it's going to hurt the company, overall, the company might see marginal losses on stuff, but for the most part, that just gets translated right to the consumers instead, and they're the ones that suffer. It's like tariffs on China goods. Sure, maybe China will be upset about it, but at the end of the day, the consumer's the one paying that 25% extra that's on those goods. So,
yeah,
cool. But on from the bad news. Well, I guess it's kind of good news seeing that Ubisoft's trying to do something, and they're probably going to win this case, considering that denials of services are illegal.
And I doubt these DDoSers have very good legal teams.
Yeah, I somehow doubt that. Especially considering most of them are probably 18-year-olds
compared to Ubisoft,
cool because they know how to send packet requests that overflow a server that literally a 4-year-old could do by pushing a button.
Yeah. But anyways,
on from that, we go on to something a little bit more positive, something that you're excited about, and I'm sure
I'm very excited
I am as well. And I'm sure you're excited about, and I am as well. Sorry, I had a brain aneurysm there for a second.
A little bit of a brain fart there.
But our last topic,
The Witcher on Netflix has appeared to be Netflix's biggest series debut ever.
In terms of what?
In terms of people watching.
In terms of Netflix saying nearly 76 million households choosing to watch at least a small part of the show. That's nuts.
Which is crazy.
How many people...
Firstly, like a show that didn't have that big of a hype outside of book and game fans. Like, I know there's a lot of us out there, but I doubt there's 76 million households that would all watch it. Surely half of people probably pirated it.
Let me give you an example here. All right, I'm gonna give you some statistics here. So They said 76 million households chose to watch at least a small part of the show. Okay, there are worldwide 154 million users of Netflix. Okay, 148 million of those are paid, so that means that most portions of those are like one household, except for like some that might let other people use certain things. So
yeah,
out of 148 million Netflix users, you might as well say like accounts or households, however you want to categorize it, 76 million households chose to watch at least a small part of the show. That's what nearly half. Nearly half.
You may as well just round it to at that point.
Yeah, you might as well.
76 million.
Yeah, you might as well say half of all Netflix users at least watched a part of the show. That's nuts.
Right, and when they say a part, I'm assuming it means more than one episode.
I think it says to watch at least a small part. I think that would probably be at least one episode. I don't know if it'd be more. I think it'd be one episode tune-in would equate to a small part of the show.
Yeah.
I don't think that they'd count like people like looking at half a show and being like, I don't like this. I don't think they would. But I think it would be at least they watched an episode and was like, that's a whole episode done.
It's mad to think that pretty much half of all Netflix users. I didn't realize that's an impressive statistic. That's kind of put it into perspective for me.
Yeah, just looking at the amount of users and stuff like that. Here's a comparison. So this is just so everyone knows. We're looking at an article from PC Gamer here, where they said, by way of comparison, Netflix said that more than 21 million people chose to watch the third season of the award-winning historical drama The Crown, a 40% increase over the second season, while the second season of the global phenomenon psychological thriller You is expected to draw more than 54 million viewers in its first 4 weeks. That means that The Witcher has hit over an amount of 20 million for itself, compared to some of the best awarded and like watched shows on Netflix.
That's something to be proud of.
Oh wait, here according to the article. Okay, so here we go here. The measure of households that chose to watch a show is a little arbitrary. Apparently Netflix defines it as viewing for at least 2 minutes. Long enough to indicate the choice was intentional. So it starts to get a little iffy
more
there.
More than a brief halt.
So what it sounds like is, but I mean, if you really think about it, who is going to turn on an episode of like this show, like let's say, you know, The Witcher, and then in 2 minutes, as soon as 2 minutes hits, they turn it off? No, I think
considering the opening of the first episode of Witcher is the Kikimora fight in the swamp.
Yeah, so I would say
which
that
I think is like it's 5 to 10 minutes long.
I would say, if you're looking at it, we could say that they pretty much have watched at least an episode. Now, you could have a couple million maybe be taken off because of it just started up, or someone started up accidentally, or whatever. We'll just say that, and they'd like watched it for a little bit to see if they'd like it, and they didn't like where it was going. But let's be honest, you're looking at the highest numbers probably ever, and
like even if you were to knock, say, 20 million off the number, it's still beating the likes of You.
Yeah, which that's like one of the most talked about.
Like one of the biggest shows going at the moment.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it, but I know that people like it. So it's pretty nuts. I think that's a good win for gaming, but also a good win for fantasy, you know?
Yeah.
And just a good win all around, showing that
for everyone.
Yeah, showing that this is something that people obviously like, especially because we know 76 million people didn't all know what The Witcher was beforehand. Like, we know for a fact.
It's like, I know at least 8 people that have watched it and have never played the games or read the books. So, if you took that statistic and blew it up, you're looking at a large portion of people who just had no idea.
And now they do. And you guys...
They love it.
Yeah, exactly. And now you guys have an idea of what the podcast is like now that me and Kyle are separated. And hopefully you will love it.
Hopefully this turns out flawlessly.
I mean, I foresee only marginal issues.
Only.
But we'll have to wait and see. Just like you guys are going to have to wait and see for the next episode of the Geek Cause podcast. So, Kyle, do you have anything else you'd like to add for our viewers? Or viewers? Listeners? Damn it, I do that all the time.
It's like, it's such an easy mistake to make, but it's...
So easy.
It's not even close, though.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, they both use senses.
That's about it. That's the only connection.
Shut up. Shut up.
But no, I don't think I have anything else to add. I think this has been a very fun-filled, topical, and enjoyable episode of the podcast.
All right, I think we pretty much stayed on time here too. I mean, look at the time running. We've done a decent job of staying on topic. I mean, people might be upset it's a little bit shorter of a podcast episode, or maybe they'll be happy. Who knows? But
who knows?
Anyways,
it's our first overseas one.
Yes, we gotta ease our way into it.
Yeah,
so,
before we build back up to those hour-and-a-half episodes.
Yeah, before we get into the real nitty-gritty. So thank you guys so much for listening to us. We love you.
We love you.
No, I said it this time. We love you.
We appreciate you.
The other one that I don't remember.
You're the best.
You're the best. And goodbye.
Bye.